Hello everyone, Alex from NIU Esports here again with another very special guest. Today I'm speaking with Verta Maloney, the Chief Innovation Officer and co-founder of gameHERS. How are you doing today, Verta?
Hey, I'm so good. I'm glad to be here.
So would you be able to tell us a little bit about the gameHERS as an organization?
Yeah. So we are a media platform and networking community and space for women and femme-identifying gamers, and we launched in March of 2022. And our whole reason for existing is creating spaces that are safer for women, for femme-identifying folks, people at other intersections that might be historically marginalized, and just creating a space where we can just be ourselves, enjoy gaming, and then also we're a for-profit and for-purpose company because we also want to see more women, more femme-identifying folks having a financial part in this whole entire industry that is esports and gaming.
Would you be able to talk a little bit more about inclusion in esports and gaming?
Yeah. So there's a bigger term called diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and all of those things. And for me, it's just about creating spaces that are just less oppressive for people and that actually include them and make them be a part of it. And so, I don't know, the analogy that's often used around these things is that inclusion means that you actually get to participate and be a part of it without feeling like anything that is just who you are is going to prevent that from happening, right? And so creating spaces that are inclusive means that we are really thinking about how do I make this space someplace that, I'm going to speak very specifically to women right now, that a woman would feel that they can bring their full self, that they can be their full self, that they feel safe, that they feel seen, that they feel heard, and that they feel that if anything is going to kind of like go wrong, that they're protected. And within gaming, I feel that if we look at gaming just on the face of it, gaming, esports, all of it, nothing should really matter except for the player and the game, right? Because it's like if we have all of those things equal. However, we live in a country where the things that happen outside of gaming are bringing themselves into the sport, right? They're bringing themselves into esports and bringing themselves into the industry. And what that means is we just don't see as many women playing, getting to the competitive ranks. We don't see as many just other folks, our non-binary folks, LGBTQ plus community. And so how do we change that? And I think that part of it is doing this, having this conversation, right? And talking about it and bringing it into the space for people to know that it is something. And I think that for me, the thing that I'm always reminding people is that if someone tells you about their lived experience, you just have to believe them. I think that some of this is around people not believing that it happens, and because it hasn't happened to you doesn't mean that it's not happening. And so I think that inclusion is one part of that puzzle, and in order to do that, we have to listen to people when they tell us their true stories, believe them, and then figure out how do we then work to create a space, whether that's your gaming club, whether that's an esports team, like college campus. How do we make it a place where they can be fully included? And part of it is asking. Ask the question. Don't like just make something up and be like, oh, this is what we're going to do for you, without actually asking the people that you're trying to do the thing for.
What are some trends you're seeing in the esports and gaming industry today?
I mean, I think that one big trend is really literally having these conversations in more open ways, right? And I think that because it's really important for people to know that the gameHERS, we didn't just pop up and exist as this company that's able to do this. We do this because there are organizations like Black Girl Gamers or Latinx in Gaming or Melanin Gamers out in the UK, Femme Gaming. Like, there are all these organizations that have been doing this for quite some time, but have not necessarily had these types of platforms for conversation. And that's one of the trends that I'm seeing, that the conversations are actually coming from outside of just the small circles and into larger spaces. So that's one trend. I think the other trend that I'm noticing, and I think when we talk about esports, people tend to talk very much about the actual competitors, and that's important. And we need to talk about the trend that's not changing swiftly enough to include more women or just people that don't identify as men. But what we're seeing, though, is that teams are starting to ensure that their entire organization is actually more diverse, right? So they're looking to work within other aspects of esports to ensure that women are in like amazing roles there, right? We've got Nicola Point Jameson leading up Evil Geniuses. We've got all of these women that are in really, really pivotal roles. And so that's, I think that is actually a trend in the direction that we want to go. And then it's hopeful that we will also start to see that within the actual players. And so I think the other trend there is looking to middle school and high school and seeing the conversation actually happening there to ensure that more young girls are actually staying with gaming. Because one statistic out there just shows that it's by middle school that you start to see more of a drop off. So you actually see more girls playing, and there's not feeling, just you see more in elementary and then leading up, and then there's this drop off. And so what can we do to make sure that more girls are staying in? And so I think I'm seeing like more high school esports teams popping up. I'm seeing more coding and different things happening for young girls across the board. So those are some trends that I'm seeing. I think that ultimately, though, it's not happening fast enough. Where that behind the camera or behind the PC, that we actually see more women. That's something that I would love to see more of. I think the other trend that I will name is that we're seeing more inclusive tournaments, and seeing like tournament leaders and organizers actually looking to ensure, right, that they're signing codes of conduct, making sure that players are not doing things that we've seen happening before, right? And just seeing that a lot more, and just having more conversation about it. So I don't know if any of those are trends because I'm just one person, but those are some things that I'm definitely noticing.
And finally, Verta, what can people do to help elevate women in the gaming and the esports industry?
Just treat us like normal humans, right? Like just basic. That's one thing. I think the other is what I said before about believe women and girls in your lives when they tell you their experiences. And then I think the third is that with anything that was not necessarily created by the group that did it, right? So like being in toxic spaces or sexist spaces is not because women necessarily created that, it's because men did historically. And so we need more men to kind of like step into this role of having the conversation about it, talking to their friends about what not to do, and not caring necessarily about what that's going to say about you, but rather caring that you're creating a space where all of your friends can actually go and do something. And we were talking a little bit before about kind of the squeaky wheel. I don't actually think that I don't think that the majority of men that are playing games want it to be a not inclusive or non-toxic space for women. I think that there's times where they just don't know what to do in that moment. And I think it's really having conversations, practice if you have to, right? Like, what should I say? Or, talk to your friends and stuff. And so those are just a couple of the things. And I think just supporting all these organizations that I've named, like going there and supporting them financially, supporting them with your ideas and your thoughts and your thinking, and supporting them by like spreading the word that they exist in the world, that we exist in the world.
Thank you so much for your incredible insight, Verta, and have a fantastic day.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Hello everyone, Alex from NIU Esports here with another very special guest today, esports caster RichRad. Rich, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to get to speak with you.
Awesome, it's great to have you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes, so I'm Richard Pontillo, also known as RichRad in the esports industry. I'm an NIU alum that has been, graduated for quite some time, but over that time I, networked into a lot of theater, a lot of film, a lot of business, my degree specifically in business, specializing in advanced professional sales. But with all the creative networking dynamic that I've had in my years in theater, I am a esports commentator or caster, as you introduced, and that's mainly the evening, where in the daytime and in the morning I am a client manager for an asset management company. So kind of get a little bit of both the business world and the creative esports world.
How did you first get involved with esports shoutcasting?
So it happened back in 2018. January was when I first started, and it was more so me just Twitch streaming, because a few months prior, my roommate at the time when I was in Atlanta doing some film work and voiceover work years ago, he was playing around with a few of the friends that he had for this project that he was working on for school, and he was recording him and his friends playing Heroes of the Storm at the time, and we were joking around, and I had started to commentate the game that they were playing, and one of them looked up to me and was like, "You really should actually do this." And I was like, "You're joking." And they're like, "No, you probably really should try it." And with my years of voice work and theater, it kind of all fell into place where I went live on stream and I hopped into Overwatch in their quick play game, went into the voice chat of 5 strangers, and just started casting it. And once I, got into, this level of comfort, just making it feel as if it's a real tournament or competitive match, one thing led to another. There was individuals who were just like, this is like the coolest thing ever. I started to build up a community from that, and even came across tournament organizers. There were small little organizations of, let's say, 50 to 100 people, and they were like, we've got a tournament coming up this weekend that's just of these 2 teams that are, scrimming for their grand finals that they had, and were interested in having me cast. So I did one cast, then led to another one. I found some more people through quick play casting to do their tournaments, and once I had enough for a reel, it then really started to snowball in the next 6 months to a year, where I then had an opportunity to do Open Division for Overwatch, then transitioning into Contenders Trials, Chinese Contenders, and getting that amazing golden email to me by Blizzard Entertainment saying, hey, we'd really like you to do Collegiate Overwatch Championships. And ever since then, it's just been a whirlwind of growth and acceleration, and it's been a pleasure along the way, even to the point now where I've expanded horizontally into other games such as Valorant or League of Legends, and discussion of Halo, and just continued to network out into these different avenues. And it's been, like I mentioned, just a crazy whirlwind to where I am today.
That's been an incredible journey to hear about. Now, Rich, you've commentated dozens of esports events and tournaments. What's been your favorite memory moment of casting it all?
I mean, the favorite moment that I have has to be the rivalry between Maryville and Northwood. So it was back in 2021, early in the year, where they did the championship grand finals. It was Maryville and Northwood finally getting to that last moment. It was a best of 5. And during the playoffs and even through the season, Northwood was a really, really well-defined team. They had individuals from Contenders that were all amassed together on their roster, that were such a dominant force across the collegiate scene, and really just being able to do basically whatever they want. They would just, either be aggressively pressing to someone's spawn and just making them, kind of regret how they're going to play the next few minutes. But in this moment, even through the playoffs, they were, shouting out saying, oh no, we're not worried about Maryville. We'll be surprised that they even take a map off of us. And just this type of just very forward conversation, just counting them out and being able to go 2 maps in, Northwood about to clutch it out, and then Maryville getting this reverse sweep in the grand finals, bringing the upset, and just being able to totally change the combination of the hearts of the viewers, but also those a part of the university, and making such an impactful turn like that, and being able to be not really the underdog in the grand scale of the playoffs, but the underdog in that moment, as so many people were just like, oh, they're never going to get Northwood. That's never going to happen. And being able to cast those moments and bring that story and level of energy to those super, super precise plays was probably one of the most exciting that I've had so far.
And finally, do you have any advice for people looking to get into esports shoutcasting?
There's a lot of them, but I would probably have to say, of the things that you really, really want to focus on, I like to say 3 of them specifically, which is taking action, making your own opportunities, and being your authentic self. Taking action, the first one to really break that one down, is honestly, you'll hear it from so many in the industry, is to just do. And that's what I had to do right when I started. It was just to go and be living in the moment and doing the actions, because when you do those actions, it really does turn it around. You're going to feel probably completely off the rocket sometimes if you've never done it before, like listening to the sound of your own voice. What are people going to think of me? Is it going to be, casted well enough? Am I repeating the same words? Am I talking about the same thing? Am I making any sense? There's so many different variables, but the point of being able to become better at what you're doing is to take action. And the other part of that is once you start setting things up for yourself by networking, by communicating, by finding work, by going into those motions of being successful, you set a bar and a precedence for yourself. And by that point, when you start building that, you now have to make sure that you uphold that, and then not only, let's say, disappoint yourself, which of course we always want to say, oh man, like I'm disappointing myself, but the bigger picture is to disappoint someone else. And we just, in the human society, I feel that when we start feeling that we disappoint somebody else, it makes us have a more powerful response to not wanting that to happen for someone else versus ourselves, because it's much easier for us to discard our own beliefs of our success versus, let's say, being successful for ourselves and someone else. It's the whole idea when you go to the gym. It's so much easier when you go with a buddy or a friend than going by yourself, because you have somebody to hold you accountable in that sense. And that's the taking action part of it, where it kind of culminates together. And the second one is the opportunity aspect of it. You will be able to, in this industry, find a way to be successful. I can probably honestly say about a third of the work that I have now is self-grown. Like, I have nurtured a seed, whether or not I went to the Hue Fest was a perfect example, where I went there to cast that opportunity, and I networked with every coach, every director, talked to different students. What kind of events do you have coming up? What other opportunities do you have with the school that you might not have somebody for? Is it a voiceover opportunity? Is it another small cast? Or do you have a course that you might need somebody to be taught for casting? All these little different nuanceical things. And even me locally, they're building an arena that's 30 minutes from me that hasn't opened yet. I've knocked on their door. I know now the manager. I've talked to the HR person. I've looked to see what kind of events are coming up, who is the production person, who's the talent coordinator. And you dive into this, and you can actually start obtaining opportunities from just being proactive and talking to people and understanding, what your value is, and learning to just be yourself and show who you are as a person, your brand. And that kind of spins into the last of the three that I mentioned, which is, being your authentic self. This is an industry where we are very, very close together. And with my years in theater and film, it has that same kind of camaraderie to it, where you are just a very close-knit, tight group of people. Like when you're working for esports, it's the love of esports. I mean, we all, I think, had a moment back when we were kids, we're playing a video game. For all that are involved in esports, it's like, this is that feeling, whether you're playing a match with your friends or you're on an adventure in a solo playing game, and you're just immersed in the content. There's so many different ways that we've been involved with it, and I think that that's something that's super, super powerful, is just you being your authentic self, because that will reflect so heavily on the people that you work with. If you truly care about this, if you really, really want to do this, always just lead with your head held high, and knowing that you want to make an impact in this industry, because you are able to do so. Don't ever think that you can't. And another way to look at it is, I know each and everybody out there who has ever played a competitive game, that there's been that one moment where you're just like, oh, I really, really just want to play one more because I want to win. If you keep that mentality in your desire to be successful, and not, let's say, the gaming aspect of it, but in your career and what you want to do, I just want to play one more game. Like, I just want to play a little bit more. And you do that towards what your goal is, you will be that much further ahead of so many peers that you have in the industry to get you into a successful place where you can feel not only fulfilled, but also be able to do what you love.
Thank you so much for your incredible insight, Rich. Have a fantastic day.
Definitely. Thank you so much, my friend.
Hello everyone, Alex from NIU Esports, and today I am with Dr. Levi Harrison, also known as the Esports Doctor. Dr. Levi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be with you, Alex.
Awesome. Dr. Levi, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do for a living?
Yes. Well, I'm an orthopedic surgeon here in Los Angeles, and I'm a hand, wrist, elbow, shoulder specialist. And my practice revolves around mostly athletes, and especially our community, gaming and esports athletes. I take care of a lot of them in my practice. And right now, it's only me. There's so few doctors taking care of esports athletes, and I am the gamer's doctor, thank God. So I'm grateful to be of service to our community.
How did you get into esports medicine?
Well, being a gamer since I think since I came out of the womb, it's just been a part of my life. So becoming a hand surgeon was a way that I thought, initially I was an engineer. I worked as an electrical engineer, and I always felt like I could combine engineering with medicine to come up with devices to help people with hand injuries or other types of disabilities. And it just seemed to work out really well, having that basic knowledge of physics and kinetics and kinematics. It just is a perfect match for medicine.
What are some of the most common injuries you see among esports players, being an esports doctor?
Oh, I'd say the most common thing that I see would be very intense stress. So the first thing would be psychological, is stress. Severe severe stress, anxiety. Those are the two major things that I see. And then when it comes to more physical, it would be wrist and finger problems, especially thumb problems. There's a coin that I've termed there too. One is called gamer's thumb, and I see gamers and esports athletes as well as climbers. Climbers get this too. Or they'll have locking of the thumb, and they'll have pain on the back, the dorsal aspect of their thumb, which is called decurvane stenosing tenosynovitis. So often when I see this type of tendonitis along with the stenosing tenosynovitis, which is trigger thumb, I call it gamer's thumb. And I see that really commonly with athletes. Because think about it, if you're playing with a console, or if you're playing on the keyboard or with a mouse, the thumb is really, really interactive to increase your APMs, your action per minute. So those are the most common things. I'd say thumb injuries, wrist and hand injuries. And sometimes, believe it or not, I even see like people who come in with neck and posture issues because, often we're gaming. You don't do this, Alex, and nor do I anymore, but often people will game like this. Their shoulders are rolled in front. Well, you really want to make sure that your posture is aligned, that your chin is up, your shoulders are squared, your back is straight, and that your hands are in what I call neutral position, that your wrist and your elbow are in the same plane of motion. Not flexed down, not extended up, where your wrist and hand are correctly aligned. Because if you're in an ergonomic position when you're gaming, it's better for your overall posture, and it's better for your ability to go even faster when you're gaming.
I try my best sometimes, but I could always use a posture check reminder.
All of us can, trust me, all of us.
And finally, Dr. Levi, what are some of the top things a gamer or an esports player should be doing to take care of themselves?
Oh, that's a great question, Alex. I'd say number one is stay as fit as you can. Number two, to avoid excess alcohol. Definitely don't smoke. Be mindful of your diet. Remember, I tell all my patients, from the athletes to the celebrities that I take care of, I tell them this. Some of them like this statement, some of them don't. And that is, you are what you eat, drink, and smoke. And I also remind them to not eat anything you're not willing to wear, because we wear everything we eat. A fit body looks fit. A body that's not very fit is not very fit because of how it's abused. So I remind them, number one, to be as healthy as possible, to drink a lot of water, take vitamins and minerals if that's needed, to consult with their own healthcare providers to see what they need, and also to do what they can to minimize stress in their lives, to have a gratitude program where you sit every day just for 3 minutes and write down maybe 5 or 10 things that you're really grateful for. And also mindful meditation, to really see yourself winning before you start gaming. So to really have maybe 5 or 10 minutes before the team starts to play together, just to sit and just tell each other, we're going to win this game, we're going to do this. To talk about it, to visualize it, to see it, then to execute and to do it. And then of course to stretch before you're gaming, stretch while you're gaming, and stretch after you're gaming. And there are a lot of stretches I have on my YouTube channel. You can join me on that. My YouTube channel, just my name, Dr. Levi Harrison. Because that channel, have millions of views by so many people, because it really will help you if you have issues with your hand, wrist, elbow, shoulder. It will remind you also that your posture is important. You have to really maintain your posture. Spinal alignment is critical. So, mental health, overall physical health, we are what we eat, drink, and smoke. So to eat well, to avoid alcohol, to not smoke, and of course to exercise every day, and to have a mindful meditation or gratitude program. Every team that I take care of, when I talk to them, they often laugh about the mindfulness, but in the end, they see how it really helps them to transition that to winning in their competitions.
Oh. Thank you so much for all your time and your insight, Dr. Levi.
Oh, of course. It was a pleasure.
Have a great day.
You too. Thank you, Alex.
Hello everyone, Alex from NIU Esports, and today I am speaking with Andy Mendez, the Executive Director of the Illinois High School Esports Association. Andy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's kind of a gloomy day out today, but we're getting ready, getting excited for some esports action all across Illinois this weekend, and hopefully in the months to come.
Yeah, same here. I'm excited to see it. So, Andy, can you tell us a little bit more about the IHSEA?
Sure. Absolutely. The Illinois High School Esports Association, or the IHSEA, is a nonprofit organization here in Illinois that is dedicated to providing opportunities for students and coaches to learn and grow through esports and gaming here in Illinois. And so our main service is that we provide an opportunity for students to play an organized play with their coaches and educators as kind of facilitators for those tournaments, and allow them to really bring in that team environment that you would get in traditional sports, but in competitive gaming. And so through that, we offer multitude of college scholarships through some of our greatest partners, and I know that this is all about scholarships for NIU, so we're really excited to be helping and supporting out.
Oh, we appreciate your help a lot. So, Andy, what are some of the differences between a varsity-run program at the high school level and a student-run esports club?
Well, what's nice is that, I've worked in collegiate and I've worked in high school, and the divide in high school esports is not as deep when it comes to varsity and club sports. Really, the way we look at a varsity program is if there's 2 or more coaches or sponsors dedicated to actually coaching a program and actually sitting down and working out a practice schedule, making sure they're communicating with their games and whatnot, and being there actively as an in-game coach and leader. But when we look at club teams, most of the time it is like a coach or sponsor at a high school that may not know a ton about esports but still wants to support their student body. So it acts as like a liaison or a contact through the IHSEA, and then usually hands it off to a student leader when necessary and when appropriate. And usually those teams will practice on their own schedules and whatnot, all very student-led, which has a lot of merit in itself.
What's been your favorite moment / event with your time with the IHSEA?
Well, a favorite, I can give you 2. A favorite moment would be pretty recently I was interacting with someone in the collegiate space, and they had mentioned to me that they had in fact played in the IHSEA, and they remember playing, if you know a lot about League of Legends, they were playing Master Yi mid, which is not something that is typically seen in that role. And they were the streamed match of the week, and they remember hearing a broadcaster being absolutely stunned that they're playing that role with that champion. And we went back to go look at the VOD, and it turns out back then I was a volunteer on the stream team for the IHSEA, and I was actually the caster that was casting his game back when he was in high school. So that was one of the coolest moments to kind of interact and be like, wow, first of all, I'm getting old. But secondly, it was an amazing opportunity to see, this student then went from high school to college to play for a scholarship opportunity, and then is looking for opportunities to be a leader in the collegiate space. So it was a fantastic way to kind of see the payoff and the gratification for what we do, right, as the IHSEA. One of the best events I think that the IHSEA has hosted was a Super Smash Bros. Event, actually 2 Super Smash Brothers events that happened during this school year, where we reached peak viewership of close to 500,000, and then eventually through VODs and whatnot, 1 million viewership on our Super Smash Brothers events. And that was an incredible milestone for us as a nonprofit. We very much appreciate our partners with UGC helping us with our production, and then obviously with our friends at Twitch who allowed us and helped us get on that front page. It made a big deal to those students, and definitely a big deal for us as staff. So we thank those 2. But that has to be one of the biggest events that we've ever hosted.
Sounds like it's all been an incredibly fulfilling experience. And finally, Andy, do you have any advice for people hoping to play esports in college?
Yeah, I think when you're a high school student looking at a multitude of collegiate options, back then when you were a high school student looking at esports, there really was only a handful of options, but now there are a multitude of different options. I would say, don't just look for the program that has the flashiest esports facility, or maybe the flashiest esports graphics on Twitter, right? It's easy to fall into those traps, I think. Really do your research on the schools that you're interested in first, and then kind of evaluate their esports programs and their opportunities there from there. the best way to prepare yourself, I think, is to keep yourself on a practice schedule, keep yourself on at least a rigorous schedule that you know that you could share with a potential recruiter, and say, look, I'm really dedicated to getting better at League of Legends. Over the past year, I've went from Plat 5 or Plat 4 to Plat 1, and I've been doing this amount of coaching. I'm spending X amount of hours per week on dedicating this. And then, really show them those targeted demographics of like, hey, I really I've been not only volunteering my time with my esports club, or I've been interning with the IHSEA or something. Just really get involved with esports. They really want a well-rounded recruit when colleges are looking at potential recruits. So I would say get involved, number one. Number two, make sure that you've got a practice schedule down. And then again, number three, make sure you know what you're looking for in a program that's going to be fit for you and not just something that's super flashy.
Yeah, I agree. Not just for esport athletes, but for any kind of college student going to college, developing that work ethic and a routine schedule is a necessity.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Andy. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you very much, Alex. You too.